Hello dear friends of analog photography. As many of you know, I photograph for more than 35 years with the Canon FD system. Today, I would like to give you a small overview of the basic accessories for your Canon A series. Thank you for your time and interest. Feel free to leave me a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also feel free to visit my homepage, apertureonepointfour.com. Thank you for your visit. But now, let's go. You'll usually have to focus your subject manually, unless you're using exotic lenses, like the Canon AF, FD, 435 to 70mm, or one of the few AF telephoto zoom lenses that third-party manufacturers like Tamron offer for this system. But even then, a razor-sharp view of the subject is an advantage. If you're a glasses wearer, you may have looked for a solution to omit the glasses when looking through the viewfinder. I find wearing glasses to be a hindrance when taking photos. I prefer to use diopter correction on the viewfinder, when it is available. Canon did not offer this for A series cameras, nor did they offer it for F or T series cameras. However, there were diopter correction lenses available at the time, that could be placed on the eyepiece ports of the cameras. These were available in various levels, as you can see in the picture here. Today, they are very hard to come by on the known exchanges. Please note that for the A series cameras, you buy corrective lenses with the S designation. S stands for square, because the mount on the A series eyepiece is square. The R correction lenses, round, can only be used for the F series. Of course, you'll also want to keep your lens looking good, so get an original Canon lens cap and matching lens hood to go with your lens. Sometimes the lens hood wobbles. How you can easily fix this, you can see in an earlier video of mine. You might also find one or two original Canon screw-in filters for your lenses. I have some Canon filters myself. It just looks very nice when everything from the eyepiece to the lens hood is made by Canon. For photography itself, however, I mostly use filters from B&W or Heliopan. The most important filters for color photography are polarizing filters, neutral density gray filters, and for lens protection a UV blocking filter. You can learn more about the use of filters on my homepage, apertureonepointfour.com. There are some accessories that like to get lost. These include the shutter caps for the X contact, the small handles of the Canon AE1 and A1 cameras, the cover of the winder connector, the eye cup, the covers of the accessory shoe. I actually don't have any cover of the accessory shoe anymore either. In many cases, the prices for the handles are almost as high as a whole camera, especially if it is defective or comes from a collection. Here it is worth rummaging on the known internet platforms, and possibly the purchase of a defective camera to cannibalize it. Today's mirrorless digital cameras offer continuous shooting capabilities of 8 frames, 15 frames, 30 frames, 40 frames per second or more. Crazy! We're not quite that fast with our Canon models. Those who would like to have an automatic film transport are very well served by the Winder A2. It only offers all the functions with the Canon AE1 program or the Canon A1. But since it is also backwards compatible, I still recommend this winder over the Winder A. I have presented all 3 motor drives in detail in a previous video. Just have a look at it. Another accessory developed especially for Canon's A series cameras is the Databack A. Usable SLR models are Canon A1, AE1, AT1, AV1, AE1 program. It attaches directly to the back of the camera, and uses the camera's electronic circuitry to print onto the film in perfect synchronization with the exposure. Attaching the Databack A is really simple. The original back has to be removed. For this you press a small spring down, tilt the back slightly towards the ground and it is removed. To attach the Databack A, Press down the small spring on the data back, and let it click into the groove on the camera body. The data back A, like the camera, requires a 6-volt silver oxide battery, PX28, or alkaline battery, that will last for more than 8,000 shots. The data back is made ready for operation at the on/off switch. The data to be exposed is set using 3 rotary knobs. The right dial offers 32 digits and spaces, 0 to 31 and 2 spaces. The center dial offers 39 digits and spaces, 0 to 31, A to G and 1 space. And the left dial, there are 39 digits and spaces, 0 to 9, 76 to 87, Roman numerals I to X, A to G and 1 space. This results in a large variety of data that can be imprinted as needed. At the selector switch 1, 2 and 3 the strength of the exposure is selected. I have had good experience with position 2. The data backer requires a cable to plug into the PC terminal on the camera body to function. It is standard for virtually all A series cameras, except AL1. The data backs for these cameras can be used to record the data directly onto the film. At the time of exposure at the bottom right-hand corner, of course it can be turned off, should you think it is not required to imprint any data onto film frames. In any case, make sure that you have made the connection to the sync socket, otherwise there will be no imaging of the data you have chosen. The orange control lamp lights up briefly to indicate that it has made the exposure of the set data. If you have forgotten to switch on the data back A, you can manually make up the exposure of the data for the last image, if you have not yet transported the film. To do this, simply press the M button on your data back. Of course, a flash unit should not be missing from your portfolio. Sure you do, you obviously want a Canon flash unit, and don't want to look at third-party suppliers. Canon offers numerous A flash units. I recommend you go straight for the Canon Speedlite 299T. It is universally suitable for all cameras that do not offer TTL flash metering, so among others all A models from Canon. It can be used with any camera that supports a hot shoe, including the T series, A series, and F1 cameras. The Canon Speedlite 299T is a powerful, automatic electron flash unit. An auto exposure flash has a sensor that measures the light reflected back from the subject, and automatically stops the flash firing when the subject has received the proper amount of light. With its many impressive features, you'll be able to successfully handle various difficult lighting conditions. In the program setting, the flash unit emits a measuring beam when the shutter release button is pressed lightly, and displays the aperture that matches the subject and distance as long as the shutter release button is pressed halfway. Also, aperture values in the range of 2 to 22 can be set in whole steps. This automatic flash also works if you have aligned the reflector against the ceiling, because you want to create softer light. The only thing to consider here is whether the power of the flash unit is sufficient. The actual amount of flash is controlled electronically. The flash unit has a guide number of 30, at 35mm reflector setting, and ISO equals 100. To calculate the smallest possible aperture, you need to estimate the distance to the ceiling, and from the ceiling to the subject. Then divide the guide number 30 by the estimated value, and you will get the maximum smallest aperture you can use for a properly exposed image. Example, 10 meters, this gives 30 divided by 6, equals f-stop 5. You can choose all apertures until 5, for example 2, 2.8, 3.5 or 4.5. Here is another example when flashing directly. All films with a sensitivity between ISO 25 and ISO 1000 can be used for automatic flash. Also, the flash can be fired manually at full or 1/16 power. The Canon Angle Finder B is a useful accessory when a camera view from above is desired. This is quite common in macro photography. Of course, lower camera positions outside of macro photography are easier to manage this way. The Angle Finder B is a fairly inexpensive alternative to its successor, the Angle Finder C. Both are fully rotatable 360 degrees, and offer the possibility of dioptric adjustment to compensate for vision defects. The Angle Finder C offers a built-in magnifier with a magnification of 2x as a further highlight. The Angle Finder B cannot offer this. An extension ring increases the distance of the lens to the image plane, and thus also extends the flange focal length. This reduces the close-up limit, and also the distance setting limit, normally infinity, of the lens. Thus, you get closer to the subject, but lose the ability to set the distance to infinity. The extent of the reduction of the film plane distance to the subject is determined by the focal length of the lens, and the construction length of the extension ring. A noticeable loss of light occurs with long extensions. In theory, there is nothing to be said against using several extension rings in succession to extend the extension of a lens. For the entry into the world of macro photography, an extension ring is an inexpensive and good choice. When using the Canon FD extension rings, all automatic functions of the respective camera are retained. With 50mm or light wide-angle lenses, you get the best compromise between magnification and distance from the film plane to the subject. Teleconverters offer a simple and inexpensive way to add additional millimeters of focal length, especially to telephoto lenses. Canon offered a total of 3 teleconverters for this purpose. When using teleconverters, the optical performance of the original lens decreases slightly. The Teleconverter 2A is calculated for all Canon telephoto lenses from 300mm focal length, and offers the best performance with these lenses. The focal length of the lens is multiplied by a factor of 2, the speed as well. My FDN 4.0 300mm length thus becomes an 8.0 600mm length lens. The shortest setting distance is retained. The Teleconverter 2B is suitable for lenses under 300mm. Optically, the same rules apply, so the FD 4.0 200mm shown becomes an 8.0 400mm, and the FD 2.5 135 becomes a 5.0 270mm. The Teleconverter 1.4 was also designed for telephoto lenses from 300mm. Due to the far protruding rear lens, this teleconverter does not fit mechanically to lenses whose focal length is smaller than 300mm. Here, the light loss is only 1 f-stop. The focal length is extended by a factor of 1.4. The Canon FD 4.0 300mm thus becomes a 5.6 plus 420mm. More tele for less money. A clear buy recommendation from me. Now we have already reached the end of the video. But wait. Exactly. You still need films. And what could be more obvious than to try out films from the time of analog photography, just for fun. Thanks for watching, see you soon.